This episode, we're going to do a deep dive on AI, which is something that we talked about offline, kind of texting about it. There was this report that we're going to get to in a second from the New York Times, but we sort of hit it back and forth between us and kind of realized it was enough here to go deeper on. This is a story that's a few weeks old now, but it does have a ton of angles, many hidden caverns in this story. So this is the exclusive report that was released a few weeks ago, made big waves after it was reported. Big waves, by the way, keeping the water theme of Deep Dive going. Saudi Arabia is creating a gigantic fund to invest in AI tech. And by gigantic, we mean $40 billion, reportedly, which would make Saudi Arabia, potentially, the largest single sovereign investor in the market. And I'm going to come back to that point and parse that in a second. Let's get to the story. In recent weeks, the New York Times reported representatives of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund have discussed a potential partnership with Andreessen Horowitz, one of Silicon Valley's top venture capital firms, and other financiers. The report cited 3 people briefed on the plans, and they cautioned that the plans could still change, by the way. So this isn't set in stone.
Right.
You see it on LinkedIn, people saying this is happening. It's not really a done deal yet. The reason this is deserving of a deep dive, I think, this week is because AI is kind of semper ubique these days, changing the way we work and live, and potentially a lot more beyond that. We're still doing this podcast kind of the old school way, although there's some new equipment and recording software here, but we are not AI bots. We are real people. Trust us. So back to the piece, quote, officials from the Saudi fund have discussed the role Andreessen Horowitz, already an active investor in AI and whose co-founder Ben Horowitz is friends with the fund's governor, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, could play and how such a fund would work, the people said. The $40 billion target would dwarf the typical amounts raised by U.S. VC firms and would be eclipsed only by SoftBank, the Japanese conglomerate that has long been the world's largest investor in startups. Now, this is the point that I want to get to and then end on and then come back up to the surface here and discuss with you, Hanaa. The report continues, quote, the Saudi tech fund, which is being put together with the help of Wall Street banks, actually, end quote right there. That actually means, I missed this. That means that this is a little bit more advanced than in talks. They're bringing the banks in. Okay, requote. Will be the latest potential entrant into a field already awash in cash. Yeah, the global frenzy around AI has pushed up valuations of private and public companies like NVIDIA, which is insane. That is an insane stock. And OpenAI, obviously, is sort of the famous AI one, but you also have Anthropic, which raised $7 billion last year in 1 year alone. I think it was last year or this year, but that's a lot. I mean, even for deep tech, which is sort of my professional focus, that's a lot of money. I mean, deep tech has long R&D cycles, really a ton of time put into them, but also they're capital intensive to get deep tech off the ground. And AI is it's the deep tech. So it takes a lot to get it going, obviously, and here we are. So let's talk about this. Let's do the deep dive. I mean, this is kind of an insane story.
It is. It's a lot of money. It's a huge fund, right? And I wonder, I guess the question is kind of what's going to come out of the investment, right? Where is the influence going to be? If you want to be a leader in AI, is it because you're putting in more money, or is it something along the lines of, for instance, investing in the tech itself? Or is it just because it's like the next thing that we feel like we have to do it, because if we don't, we're going to miss the boat somehow? Is there another way that we could be big players in developing AI somehow, or in kind of the direction it's going in, right? Because it's kind of really trendy, but it's also really scary on many levels. And it's also, a huge opportunity. So I guess the question really is like, kind of, what can Saudi really do in this space? And is this investment kind of going to put them on the map as key players in the direction it's going to go in? What do you think?
It's interesting because, first of all, that is a lot of money. And I mean, that's an enormous amount of money. And what's interesting about it is it's all in one. It's all in one investor, and that was the point kind of made in the article. It's like one fund is controlling that much money. There's a ton of money in AI right now. It's the hottest investment from a VC standpoint. It's also very, I would say, later on for Saudi Arabia to be kind of entering this from hey, we want to be the leader in this space. Maybe they're not going to go for the leader mantle. And I think what you said is interesting. It's like maybe they're going for a different angle here. Maybe they're going for literally just stakes in some of these future companies so that there may be some tech transfer, or maybe it's an equity play. We don't really even know that. But there's an article that came out also in the New York Times, which has kind of been on fire on the AI beat recently. But I read it in the middle of the night last night, woke up in the middle of the night, and it was the first thing that I saw. I was like, I'm going to read this. But it was all about a French startup called Mistral. I think it means wave or wind in French. But it's now starting to be considered a challenger to OpenAI and Google, and it's a French startup. It's from a guy that is basically spinning off from Meta and from Google and starting up basically an OpenAI in France. And his angle is we don't want Silicon Valley and broadly the United States to be controlling what is ethical and what is not in AI, which matters for the world. They're getting some traction. You have China that's already in the space. Exactly. And then you have a ton of other players trying to get in. So how can Saudi Arabia fit in and also like make this align with Vision 2030? So like what, manufacturing chips or batteries or, I mean, energy storage and energy usage is going to be massive for AI. It rips energy. So, I mean, until something changes, like, yeah, I think this is interesting. And I think that to just say, oh, we're going to be a new AI leader, like some people have kind of misinterpreted on LinkedIn and other places, it's not really telling the whole story. I don't think Saudi is going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's all of the support network that you need around that. And then there's all of the different layers to AI, right? So it's not, I like the idea that, you know, this French company is like, we don't want the US to dictate exactly, you know, what's happening in this space. And you've seen that happen. You know, the UAE have their own generative AI company as well. And you know, and that works better in Arabic, and the technology is really growing very quickly and moving very quickly. So things that weren't even fathomable in terms of, I don't know, just kind of generating images and videos a year ago has improved significantly. So there's the actual tech, there's how fast it's developing, and then there's all that support network, and then who's in control. And all of these questions are really big. And I think that they are uncomfortable to talk about. So it's another big player in the space, and I don't know which direction it's going to go in and how it's going to be, you know, steering the various kind of arms of its development into the future. I don't know. AI makes me very uncomfortable, as it does, I think, a lot of people. So big sums of money put towards it makes me a little bit uncomfortable as well, because I don't know what's going to happen. Like, does that mean that people are going to replace humans a lot faster using the AI? Does it mean that we're going to have to be really worried about kind of the rivalry between key players? I don't know.
It's interesting because it's like a lot of times when at least I think about AI, I only think about the challenges and like the potential downsides of it. I don't like, I mean, I know there are upsides. To me, I only focus on that. I only focus on like, well, what if you put AI into a weaponized drone?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, then I think about that. I'm like, well, that's terrifying. What are we doing making AI? Why are we
scary.
giving $13 billion to OpenAI when their source code is not opened? To me, I'm just sort of like, I'm uncomfortable with where this is going and yet also feel completely powerless. So it's like Saudi Arabia announces $40 billion are going to invest in it. I'm like, okay. But like, what is it? I mean, I get AI, but I'm just kind of like, I don't see where this is going, unlike other technologies before it. Like Web3 and crypto and all that stuff, I understood to an extent. It's like totally leveling the playing field of financing and all that stuff. It's just, this seems like, well, this could be, you know, this could blow the planet up. I mean, I actually don't even know. So it's like, yeah, I think everybody's kind of like, yeah. So.
But I also think that we have, like you just said, right? I think of all of the challenges and the negatives, but I think we do have to look at the investment as a potential very positive step forward of looking at all of the potential that can come out of investing in AI and maybe contributing to the positive aspects of it, right? It makes things more efficient. It is eliminating a lot of the busy work that people don't like to do, and people can then focus on the more innovative, creative side of work that we do need to engage in if we really want to drive the world forward in a positive way. I think that it's also, you know, just there are so many opportunities to manipulate it in ways by making sure that people are engaging with it in the right ways. So it is generating things that are a reflection of kind of positive sentiments in society, not only negative ones. And there's potential to do amazing things, right? So we don't want to be these Luddite people rejecting technology and only thinking of the negatives, because if you do that, you miss the wave. And I think that's what I read into this, right? Like, Saudi does not want to miss the wave and can't afford to, because it is going to rule the way we do everything in the future.